Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining me on this bright spring afternoon. Well, I've got the cup of tea here, as you can well see. There we are, the good cup of English tea. Today, I'd like to talk to you about British culture, localised culture, and also other areas of interest which you may find if you come to England. And I know some of my foreign guests, those of you overseas, perhaps would like to come to England and know more about places where they can see the real English culture. I'm going to talk to you today about idioms, colloquialisms and sayings. So we'll kick off today with some unique expressions and colloquialisms. Well, here's a few words. I'll just go through what they actually mean. You may hear them on the streets in various places. It does differ place to place, certainly from the north of England to the south, London, the big cities and the country. So we'll just say a few words. You might hear some young people say it as well. So a few words that might be said on the streets and in conversation. Well, and like I say, these words do differ between young and old as well. Ace, used in a sentence, may mean something that's very good or excellent. And anorak, well, you might think of it as a coat, a raincoat, but also is somebody who is also a geek with a knowledge of a certain subject, usually quite obscure, shall we say. Blimey, you might hear that said just on its own, while it's actually an expression of surprise. And bloke, somebody might say, well, that bloke there, he's not that friendly. Well, that's a man or a chap, but perhaps not a gentleman. Well, another one which you might hear, certainly in the pubs you would hear it. Cheers, or cheers, good health. And that means, this is an expression we use when you have a drink. For example, you'll say it when you drink together. So cheers. You also say cheers sometimes when you say goodbye. Well, thank you. Chinwag is another word for chat. Chocablock is another word, sometimes abbreviated by young people to chocker. Is actually a word which means very busy, full up, e.g. So example there, that would be possibly, we'll say, shopping centre, something like that. An e.g. there, as I've used, means example, so there's another area of interest. If you see that written, it means example. Another one, chuffed. Well, that means proud or excited. Codswallop, you might hear that rather forcefully. Well, it actually means perhaps it's disagreement, disapproval, something made up, not believed to be true, or even utter nonsense. That may be used in a sentence. Dog's dinner, well, that's something to describe a bad situation. And a slang word, knackered, it's very slang, is actually a word which means exhausted or worn out. And there's some used in London as well. If you're on the buses in London or the street language, you might hear various London phrases, especially if you're travelling around London, and some come from Cockney, East End of London. So you might hear the word geezer, all right, geezer, and that sort of thing. All right, geezer, that sort of thing. You know, they talk like that. And sometimes you might think, oh, what are they saying, you know? And various other words like that. And up north, for example, Newcastle, you might hear the word, say, I'm okay, and that's another word meaning yes. And also, another colloquialism is, isn't it? Proper English people would say, isn't it nice? But some areas of the country, they would say, isn't it nice? That might be in London. Or up north, for example, Yorkshire, you might say, isn't it nice? There's another variety of ways of using the same words. Some other sayings here. Where there's a will, there's a way. Cleanliness is next to godliness. There's no place like home. At the end of the day. Many hands make light work. and flogging a dead horse. And I can always explain more of these later. And this is idioms used in film and television. So idioms used, which you probably would hear on various films. A blessing in disguise. I will say some of the meanings here. Well, a good thing has come out of something which you perhaps thought was going to be bad at first. Beat around the bush. Avoid saying what you mean due to having potential controversial outcomes. Better late than never. Better to turn up, in other words, than not at all. Bite the bullet, I beg your pardon. Get something over with, as it's inevitable. That has to be done. All the outcomes inevitable. Break a leg, used in some areas, although not that common. It means good luck. I think it's probably used more in London. Call it a day. Well, stop working on something or give up. Cutting corners. Well, that might be used when about somebody doing a job poorly. Cutting corners to save time and money. Give somebody the benefit of the doubt. Well, there we are. Trust what somebody says, despite initial reservations. Hang in there. Don't give up. It's not rocket science, and that means not complicated. Should be quite easy. You know, not worth worrying about. Just get on with it. Quite a simple job, possibly. I missed the boat. It's too late. You can see quite a few there. Moving on, I've got some more here. Extensive list here. Hope you're keeping up with the meanings and everything else. I expect you have some similar meanings in your own countries as well, those of you abroad. On the ball. But you can guess that one. Organised or doing a good job. Pull somebody's leg. Well, it's not offensive at all. That it's just having a joke with somebody. You wouldn't literally pull the leg. So far, so good. Well, going well so far. Self-explanatory. Under the weather, well, means ill, not feeling too well at the moment. Your guess is as good as mine. Not knowing the outcome of a situation or the meaning. Idioms and expressions. Penny for your thought. Or tell me what you're thinking. You might be deep in thought. Actions speak louder than words. And so that's all about doing the job and do what's asked of you, and don't talk about it, and do the job to the best of your ability. More or less, that's what that means. Barking up the wrong tree. Well, looking in the wrong place, in other words. Finding a solution to the problem in the wrong place. That's what that means. Costing an arm and a leg means very expensive. As you see, we've got a few there and a few extras here as well. Good things come to those who wait. That means be patient. Wild goose chase. You're doing something that achieves nothing, so something you're doing may achieve nothing. Give the cold shoulder. Well, that's when somebody ignores you. And the last one here. Do to others as you would have done unto you. That means treat others fairly and the way in which you would like to be treated. Well, quite a few of that extensive list there. Hope you find that interesting. Lots of idioms, colloquialisms, proverbs and sayings there. I'm sure you find that a bit of a laugh in places and interesting. And of course it does vary throughout the country. Well, next week I'll be talking about Americanisms that have creeped into this country, to some people's disgust. I'll see you then. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye now.